All right, let's talk about one of the most maddening, pull-your-hair-out problems in cybersecurity. You know the drill. You run a scan, it spits out a nice, clean result, and then absolutely nothing works. You've just been lied to by your own tools. So today, we're going to break down exactly why this happens and, way more importantly, how you can catch the lie before you sink the next hour of your life into a dead end. I mean, we've all been there, right? That feeling, that specific sting of betrayal. The very tool you're supposed to trust just sent you on a total wild goose chase. This quote just perfectly captures that moment, that sinking feeling when you realize it's not you, it's the data. The lead you were chasing was a ghost the whole time. And this brings us right to the heart of the problem, what I call the confidently wrong scan. It sounds a little dramatic, but it's true. It's that quiet tragedy where one single, plausible-looking line of text from your scanner becomes the reason your next hour is a complete and total write-off. So let's dig into the psychology here, because there's a real trap. The output from a tool like Nmap, it just feels so certain, doesn't it? It reads like a doctor's diagnosis. It gives you a name, a version, and you get this little rush of, okay, I'm making progress. But that's exactly where the trap is sprung. The moment we stop questioning and start assuming, we go down the rabbit hole. We start doubting our environment, our exploit, our own skills, anything but that first confident label. Okay, so how does this even happen? How can a tool that's usually so reliable be so wrong? Well, let's meet the usual suspects behind these false positives. Think of this like a detective story, and we're about to unmask the culprits who are trying to throw us off the trail. The main tool we're talking about here is often Nmap's service version detection, the -SV flag. Now, here's the crucial thing to get. -SV is not having a deep, meaningful conversation with the service. It's a brilliant, powerful pattern matcher. It sends out some probes, listens to what comes back, and then compares that response to a massive database of known fingerprints. It's making a highly educated guess, but at the end of the day, it's still a guess. And our first culprit? I love this term, banner cosplay. The service banner, that little greeting message, is often the first thing a scanner sees. But here's the thing. Banners are just text. They can be faked, they can be super out of date, or maybe they just come from some generic template that happens to match a signature for a totally different service. It's pure theater, designed to look like something it's not. Next up on the suspect list, we've got port multiplexing. This is where a single port acts like a choose-your-own-adventure story. Maybe if you speak TLS to it first, you get one service, but if you speak plain text, you get something totally different. Nmap's initial probe might just guess the wrong hello, leading it down the wrong path and introducing you to the wrong character in the story. And our third suspect, hidden wrappers. Think of these as the proxies, the load balancers, or even just simple little scripts that sit in front of the real service. They're like a receptionist. They intercept your connection and they speak for the program in the backroom. Nmap does a perfect job identifying the receptionist, but the receptionist isn't who you're actually trying to talk to. So when you put it all together, what does it mean? It means most false positives aren't actually Nmap failing. It's the target environment putting on a really convincing but ultimately fake first impression. And this leads us to the absolute #1 most important takeaway here. When the label on the box and the behavior of the service disagree, you have to trust the behavior every single time. Okay, so that's the problem. We get it. Now for the solution, how do we fight back? Let's build a simple but really powerful toolkit for our mental workbench. Let's talk about the verification ladder. This is how you go from a shaky guess to solid certainty in just a couple of minutes. This ladder has just 4 rungs. It's easy. First, confirm the protocol. If the scan says it's a web server, try to speak HTTP to it with something like curl or netcat. Simple. Second, capture the first few bytes of the response. This handshake truth can unmask a hidden wrapper almost immediately. Third, correlate what you're seeing with other hints from the host. And fourth, just cross-check it with one other independent signal. See, this isn't about running more and more scans. It's about asking smarter questions. Now, to really make this new habit stick, let's look at the flip side. The classic traps that people fall into when they blindly trust that initial scan. This is exactly how hours just get vaporized, chasing things that aren't even there. The biggest mistakes are absolute classics. First, treating that VSV hit like it's a medical diagnosis from a world-renowned expert. It's not, it's a suggestion. Second, and this is probably the most expensive mistake you can make, is immediately Googling exploits for whatever service it found. You are now investing your most precious resource, your time, based on a totally unverified assumption. And finally, ignoring the actual behavior of the service. Like if every single request you sent gets the exact same generic response back, that kind of uniformity is a huge, blinking red flag. So here's a clear little decision card for you. When is it okay to just trust the scan and move on? Well, when the behavior perfectly lines up with the label. When must you verify? Anytime there's even a little bit of weirdness, any mismatch at all. Or, and this is a big one, when that specific version number is critical for your next move, especially if you're working on a capture the flag box that you know is designed to be tricky. I'm telling you, 2 minutes of verification here will save you an hour of pain later. Look, if all of that feels like a lot to keep in your head, don't worry. We can distill this entire philosophy, this whole approach, down into one single powerful, memorable rule that will save you from so many headaches. This is it. This one sentence changes everything. It forces you to stay in hypothesis mode. It means you refuse to commit to a story until you have earned that certainty with your own evidence. If the scan says SSH, but you can't get a valid SSH handshake going, you don't believe the label. It's as simple as that. And what this does is it creates a fundamental shift in your mindset. It's a pro move. You realize you don't actually need perfect, 100% gold-plated identification to make progress. What you really need is the next best test, the one single action that will reduce your uncertainty the most. Real operators win by being less wrong, faster. Okay, let's put it all together into a clear, repeatable workflow you can use right away. This is how you stop chasing ghosts and start following the cold, hard evidence wherever it leads. So here's the flow. Step 1. You get your label from the scan, but you treat it as a hypothesis, not a fact. Step 2. You try to speak the protocol. Does it act like it should? Step 3. You check those first bytes for any signs of a wrapper. Step 4. You corroborate with just one other independent signal. Then, and only then, do you decide. If all the evidence lines up, awesome, proceed with confidence. If it conflicts, you pivot your hypothesis before you waste any more time. Ultimately, this is all about building a simple 3-check habit. 1, speak the protocol. 2, capture the first bytes. 3, corroborate once. This habit, it's small, it's maybe even a little boring, but it is wildly effective at keeping you focused on what's real and stopping you from wasting your best brain power on a story that was never true to begin with. And I want to leave you with this final thought. Your goal isn't to get perfect identification on the first shot. The real pro goal is to always be asking yourself, what is the next test I can run that will have the least amount of regard attached to it? That tiny pivot in your thinking, that's the difference between a frustrating detour and a clean, satisfying path to understanding what is really happening on the watch.